I was carrying shame and guilt from one of our friends. Like, one of my best friends passed away a few years ago. And I was pregnant at the time, so I couldn't like really process my emotions about him dying. It was COVID. It was a mess. People like didn't understand this, the severity behind his death. I knew because I had grown up in addiction with this person, so I knew their struggles. I knew what they were going through. And I remember they called me and I didn't call them back because sometimes you get like tired from people that are just doing the same thing. Are you going to be sober when I talk to you? Are you going to be drunk? Are you whatever? And I remember being like so tired because I was pregnant and I did not call him back, and then he died. And I remember being like disassociating totally. Like, I can't process some, again, another dysfunctional thing that people told me was don't like over exert yourself with emotions. So then I was like carrying that guilt of like, oh my God, what if I kill my baby from crying?
Wow.
Check.
Check it.
You know, the guys at all the shows. Check. Yeah, that's it. We're done.
Honestly, we're doing this. We're over. Guys, we made a big mistake.
Starting this podcast. No, we did.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome
Of the jury
to episode 1. We made a huge mistake by calling the last episode 1. We should have called it teaser.
Or intro. Intro to table culture. Intro to who we are. Because I felt like we got a lot of interesting feedback.
Oh, yeah.
People are like, we just wanted to. You were too vague with your topics. You just didn't get into it. And I'm like, hello, that's what we're doing an entire podcast for.
We can't spill the tea all in one episode.
Yeah, I felt like people were like, we wanted to know more about that. And I'm like,
that's good though. That's the whole point of this podcast, to get you to keep coming back because of all the stories and juicy topics we are going to be talking about here at the table.
At the table. Join our table, guys. You can come sit with us. That's how we should open up every episode. You come and sit with us.
Hashtag sit with us.
Sit with us, please. Our table. Can you see our table?
I think a little.
I don't think so anymore.
It's okay.
It took a lot of time and effort to get this. I think we've been recording for 7 hours. But at this point. Yes. So we're going to, I guess, because like we said before, we were kind of joking, but we did sort of get feedback from people, which we love.
Yes.
We love. We actually want more feedback. We're both maybe I want to say unoffended people. We're pretty unoffended. Unless you come for our family and then you're dead to me. But you could say basically anything to us.
Yeah. No, I think we liked the negative feedback, or I think it was more constructive criticism, which I do very well with constructive criticism.
I do not. I don't do so well. Ask my husband.
Okay, but the negative comment that we got, that kept me up all night.
Oh, what when somebody let me put my phone on do not disturb. When somebody wanted to make a comment, and a couple people, it's interesting to me. A couple people got from our intro teaser episode, our intro episode 1. A couple people were like, "Oh, so are you guys going to talk about what did they say? Are you guys going to basically you guys are going to talk about church or something. You're going to talk about religion." And we're like, how did you, because I said, oh, well, we grew up conservative or we grew up whatever I said, I don't know idea.
Well,
and then people we defected. It's I don't know.
Also, you know what they say about assuming.
Yeah. No, what did they say? Tell us.
No. No.
No, I don't
Assuming
know.
makes an ass out of you and me.
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that before.
What?
No, I've never heard that. Is that bad?
No.
JK, edit this part out.
No, absolutely not.
Assuming, yeah, I mean, I kind of got the vibe that people were thinking like, oh, even though your dad's this like spiritual man or whatever, you are now saying that you're not spiritual.
Oh, but
That's
that
what I was
lady's
kind of
comment.
getting. Yeah, or like
Oh,
other
yeah,
people
yeah.
I kind of felt was, I mean, we're just having a conversation here, people, so you can just join in. But I guess that
Should we give them context?
yeah, should we get? I mean, I feel like we should give
Listeners.
them context on the way that we grew up and.
Oh, I thought you meant on what the lady said.
No,
the feedback on what the lady
forget
said.
that. I feel like other people were also saying interesting. Well, yeah, maybe I just guess it's. I'm like trying. You know, this is okay. This has been the whole struggle of our lives. We record, do you know how many times, guys, we had to think about what we wanted to say on our first episode? I think that our teaser episode, our intro episode, even this, I mean, I feel like we were not as like crazy about this, but like we recorded and re-recorded and re-recorded because we're like, oh, this has to be a particular way or whatever. And I think it's because we were still concerned with, at least for me, I could speak for myself.
No.
We were still concerned about like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go in too depth about this story, or we shouldn't say this because this person might be offended. I remember we cut one of our episodes because we talked about a friend of ours that got divorced, and we were like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't say that because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
But then I thought about it, and both you and I have many friends that have gotten divorced.
I know.
And it could have been about any of them. But we were so concerned about bringing it up or bringing our own personal stories before what we were talking about, just bringing our own personal stories. So I think it's perfect to segue into our series 1, episode 1.
Series 1.
The first topic we're going to be talking about is shame and guilt.
Yes.
Now, this last week from the feedback, how weird has it been to receive and think about putting the podcast out, thinking about what people were going to say, thinking about the odd feedback we got from
certain people,
certain age groups.
Boomers. I mean, I don't even know if there's
that was my thought.
Yeah.
But we might have disappointed people.
Yes.
Or we might have let down people, or the way that they perceived what we said was a disappointment.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because, you know, talking about shame, right? I mean, shame can be a million different things, guilt and shame. But even when we said, hey, we think that we talked about all these things, addiction and divorce and mental health, relationships, religion, like when we brought up like, hey, I think we should talk about shame and guilt, we even thought about 2 different things. So there's so many different facets of feeling shame or guilt. Like going back to maybe some of these religious people that said something or whatever, I straight went to thinking about shame in the context of the way that we grew up in a conservative religious, like if anybody knows a little bit about like our dad was pretty well known.
Not even him, not even that. Scratch, you know, the fact that he was a radio host and, you know, traveled the world and
he was
is
under
an
a
author.
spotlight. Yeah.
Forget all of that. We were in certain communities, let's say the denomination that we were in, those standards and how they expected you to raise your children, we were under that.
Yes.
So anybody that comes out of that, I don't even know. I feel like I'm talking about coming out of a cult or something right now.
Well,
I'm trying to choose my words very carefully.
Okay, so
look what I'm doing right now.
You have to choose your words carefully because there is this, like, I was talking to somebody and they were saying, they're like, I feel so bad, but like, I'll be really happy when, and they're like, you know what I mean by saying this, but they're like, I'll feel a sense of relief when my parents pass away because then I'll feel free to talk about everything.
Wow.
So it's just like, dang, like there's this level, again, talking about shame of like, there's this level of like, hey, but I was raised this way. And I love my parents and they like, I know the way other people grew up and they were like abused, like horrible. Like our parents didn't do that to us. And it's like, we love our parents, but you know, it's like, what's the ground between loving your culture and loving your family and loving your, you know, your family and then being like, but I didn't like this about the way that I was raised. Like I honor you and I respect you, but I don't want to do things that way.
True. And then there's the complete, for me, growing up, it was how do I separate people from church?
Yes.
How do I separate people doing bad things or leaders doing bad things from church? And how do I separate those bad people from religion and or spirituality? Because I feel that's the biggest issue is it's all together. It's all meshed as the same thing. And that's the difficulty is how do we have boundaries? How do we break apart from those things that and toxic behaviors that are unhealthy?
That are culty too. Like there are measures.
That's why I chose that word.
Were we talking about I can't even remember. IBL?
Oh no. So there's two. There's like you mean like Mormonism?
Like no, it's not like Mormonism. We didn't grow up
like
Mormon
Latter-day
guys.
Saints?
We didn't grow up no. And I feel like we should also give context to like what religion. So we grew up in Christianity. We grew up in like I hate this word, but like I do want to say like Pentecostal. If you know that background, like they're a little crazy. Our family though, particularly, was not like super culty, super religious. They didn't put crazy expectations on us. But if you would say to like I hate to say it, but like normal person, if you were to say like a normal kid, oh, I grew up like that, they'll be like, that's really weird. Like, why didn't your parents do this or do that? Or even some things that I like still believe in. People are like, oh, why do you?
Well,
why do you
right.
believe that?
So the other thing is that we were under the it was called Assemblies of God. So
what even is that?
You know what?
AJ, right? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So it's like Baptist, Episcopalian, you know, I'm definitely getting it wrong.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like, don't quote us, guys. Don't come at us.
We're 100% wrong.
But also, like, tell us in the comments, like, what.
It is a denomination.
It is but then we, like, grew up non-denominational, I guess.
No.
No?
No.
Assemblies
not
of
until
God
we left the Assemblies of God church that we said that we're non-denominational.
Got it. So our parents we were raised as kids really strict. I feel like we were under that more that, I don't even know. I mean, like, what was your experience as a kid, teenager? I mean, I know because as both a teenager, we were like, peace out. I wanted to like flip the camera off, but like, what was your experience growing up? Because I know I had I mean, we had really similar. But what was your experience?
Well, first of all, let me just say I was completely dissociated from anything happening. Looking back and being an adult, so I could answer it one way as a teen and now one way as an adult. I completely separated myself from whatever was going on. I emotionally removed myself. I did everything that I could to either rebel emotionally or shut myself down emotionally from what was going on. Now,
that was like your personality,
yes,
though, because you were like that even from when you were a kid. You were like, nobody's gonna come tell me what to do.
And I wasn't rebellious with acting out. I was rebellious with, you can't tell me what to do. I will not conform.
Yes. Punk rock for life.
No, I think it came in really, really a lot younger. I would say like 8 years old.
No, some of the things you used to say when you were a kid, mom would be like, my mom said she was on like a flight with somebody and she's like, why is that person fat? Or like, she would just, didn't you say something like that?
Remember? Where's idiot?
Oh, idiot.
Where's idiot?
Why
we were
is
on
that?
a flight and I was like, where's idiot? Because he was smoking. And the stewardesses tried to get him to stop smoking. And then apparently when I was dead silent and everyone was sleeping, I was like, hey, where's Idiot? He tried to light a cigarette. Whatever. Anyway, guys.
Anyway, back down the rabbit trail.
All right. So I don't know. I have a really different perspective. And then I think I also silently pleased our parents. I think that I didn't want to disappoint them, but I just did it very quiet rebellion.
And also, you were dating somebody
At the young age of
like 15, right?
12 was my first boyfriend.
Okay, that is deranged.
12 was my first. Listen.
We got so much to talk about, guys.
And let me tell you, you know what thought that I was having that I hadn't
what
thought
trauma?
about. I hadn't thought about it in years.
I know. We're like trying to control our New York accents.
No.
But it's going to come out, guys.
I guess because thinking about this topic and really thinking about everything that's happened in the last week and all the feedback, how can I filter it, right? Emotionally healthy and mentally. But I had this thought that I would do anything that I could to skip church or leave church. And I would leave the building all the time.
I know, me too.
I was wild.
I know.
And
smoking cigs in the parking lot.
Okay.
A Bethany church.
Oh, no. I'm talking about like 12 years old. I used to go across we used to cross the street, go next door. But Mom, please don't get upset at me. I had a boyfriend and we used to go and make out in a back alley while church was going on. First of all,
this is just
what in the world? Where was I even supposed to be at 12 years old? You're in youth?
I guess 12 is like, what is that? 6th grade? I don't even know. Yeah, you're supposed to be in youth group, I guess. Yeah, we were supposed to be in youth group. That's so funny because both of us did the exact same thing. I would be like outside smoking cigarettes because I was like,
where would you go? Would you go across the street by the bagel place? Like behind there was like that back alley. There was like
at Calvary or like Bethany.
No, Calvary. I guess
I was too young.
Yeah, you were too young.
I was too young.
Okay,
I like wasn't quite like demonic yet.
Like,
I was like 11, 12 that I became like evil.
See, the fact that you are calling yourself that, the fact that you're associating with that.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
I would just say
I was probably called that by like multiple people though. But see, no, when we went
in high school and or
no. Well, yes. Remember that whole Angela? Shout out to Angela. And people in high school used to say, no, oh man, I'm taking it way back. We were in 7th grade. So what are you in 7th grade?
Middle school.
No, like how old? We were 13, maybe 13. Okay, 12?
12. Yeah.
13. Is it around the same age?
Mm-hmm.
People spread a rumor that, remember that, that Angela and I were drinking each other's blood?
No, that you were wearing vials of blood. Because you had like, it was like a crystal rock or whatever. No, they used to think that you were goth.
Because people didn't understand. We went to, both of us went to a Dutch Reform. What did they used to say?
If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
Insane. We were like.
By the way, I'm married to a Dutch person.
You're married to a Dutchman.
And I have a half Dutch child.
Yes, he's amazing. We love Devin. But he wasn't one of those people. But I felt like I felt completely out of place in the private school that we went to. But our parents tried to push us into private school because they were like, don't rebel, don't be a bad kid. And I was like, who wants to get drunk with me in
the bathroom? We used to smoke cigarettes. We used to stand on the toilet
in the bathroom
and smoke cigarettes out the window.
Oh God.
What were we thinking?
I don't know. But
I begged to go to that school, by the way.
Didn't you?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Begged to go there.
Why? And now, like crazy, I want to send my kids there because I was like, oh, maybe they could get like a good education. And then they're like, $14,000 a year per child. And I'm like,
yeah, for like kindergarten.
any private school like to be sponsored right here, I will.
Oh, yeah,
But then
sponsor
again,
us.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't
sponsor
sponsor
us.
us
No.
because we're talking about insanity. But also, I don't even want to get into that. But it was just like, okay, we went to a private school. Our parents were like, go to church, go to church, go to church. I'm going to send you to a private school. They would like tell us that we couldn't hang out with friends that were like not Christian, but our non-Christian friends were 10 times better than our Christian friends were horrible. I mean, even talking about, which is so sad, even talking about, again, going back to the shame topic and saying that when we first talked about shame, I talked about religious and like upbringing, the way that we grew up, trauma. And then you were like, wait, we need to talk about like trauma, like sexual trauma and stuff that like you're saying, oh, I was making out with a guy at 12 years. I know y'all Gen whatever is it? Gen
Z?
Well, what is cadence? Like what is
Alpha.
Alpha? I don't even know what's happening there. I know kids are so advanced and whatever. I think 12 years old to be making out is
Listen, you don't know anymore.
what?
No, it's okay, but it's not even that.
But
So,
like you were saying what? You were saying like you were
so when we were talking about
shame,
shame, we thought, I said let's have it as our first topic. But I was thinking about all physical shame, emotional shame, and everything tied into being a woman in society and or pressures by society. And mine was, when we talk, forever, I will never not think about the Game of Thrones when the queen has to walk into the city naked. Oh yeah. And shame. And
so what did what because it was like, what do you call it, slut shaming or whatever? Is that it or what?
Well, she's a bad person, but
Okay,
whatever. Anyway, it was the nun, in the series, it was like, let's say the religious person shaming her, standing behind her, the nun standing behind her as she walks through the city naked. Public shame.
I mean, well, like how much different is that from what we experienced?
Yeah, well, she was naked and her crime was
okay, well,
like a sexual crime and stuff like that. But
I mean, that's kind of,
I mean,
even if you weren't, guys, for the people that were not that are not religious at all, didn't grow up Mormon, Catholic, Jewish, whatever, maybe your family grew up with nothing. You still like, I mean, sex is such a taboo topic, even though people feel like I feel like people try to lie and say that they are open about it. And when it really comes down to it, it's like, no, you're not.
No.
We're still not open, and nobody was open with us when we were kids, for sure.
And it's always an off-table topic because even us, we are going to be perceived in a way because we are saying the word sex. We are talking about sex. We're going to talk about relationships. Exactly. We are going to be perceived in a certain way.
What? Like, how are you?
And guess what? This podcast is not for everyone.
You're saying this podcast is brought to you by Chris Alvarez Photography. Follow him. I will post the link right here. I still don't know what I'm doing right now, but it's just one way or another.
Ghost links.
Ghost links. I think I did this in the last podcast, and I didn't put anything there. So
it was cute.
Yeah,
it was cute.
Just bear with us. Anyway, sorry, rabbit trail. You were talking about
the way that
you thought about.
Yeah, no, the way that even we are going to be perceived. And I was looking over our notes that we wrote down that there's a lot of good things, but because we are like looked under, we feel like we're being looked under a microscope. And
I mean, we 100% are.
And that we have to be good little girls, behaving girls. We can't see, for me, it's like, I can't stand up for my beliefs and my morals, or I can't really truly express myself, say how I feel, because I'm worried about what other women are going to think of me, or I'm worried if another man that thinks that I'm being over sexual.
Yeah, that's weird.
Because I'm confidently talking about my morals, my beliefs, if I have an ounce of confidence.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I feel like men are like less judgy about that. I feel like women are
No.
maybe not.
No.
No?
I do
Or do you think that
I
too?
do agree. I do agree that it's
Like a guy's not gonna like, you
It's
know,
a
I said the word like
gossip.
slut shame or whatever, but like I feel like a guy's not gonna do that to a girl. A girl is gonna do that to another girl.
Yeah, I mean, women are always trying to bring each
Haters.
other down, pit
Such
against each other, gossip about each
yes.
other.
I mean, this is what we even talked. Okay, what did we just say? We said we feel uncomfortable talking to some of our girlfriends, telling them how we actually feel, because we don't want to we don't want to hurt them. We don't want to like mess up. I just had a conversation with a really good friend, and she said to me, "Oh, did you?" I was like, "Oh, I don't really feel like close with this person anymore. I feel like they kind of like dropped me or whatever." And then she was like, "Oh, did you talk to them about it?" It was like she was speaking Chinese when she said that. I was like, "What do you mean? Did I talk to her about it?" She's like, "Well, did you say like, hey, did anything happen in our relationship or whatever?" And I was like, "No. Why would I say that?" And she's like, "Because it's your friend." I'm like, it just dawned on me of like, wow, I would feel weird or like, oh, I don't want to like mess. I don't know. I don't even
You
know
don't
what.
offend the person?
I don't want to offend. I don't want to say how. And again, like being a woman and saying like how you actually really feel. I'm sure tons of guys feel like this too, but saying how you actually feel and then being shamed for it or like coming. I remember my husband and I, we had said we confronted like some people. I can't even remember what we confronted them about, but people were like, "You guys are dramatic." Like, yeah, it was just this whole like, "Why are you making a big deal about this?" And we were like, "It was a big deal to us." Like and then we wanted to talk to whoever because we didn't want to like gossip behind their back, and they made it seem like we were so dramatic about bringing up this issue. And I'm like, I remember I said like, "See, this is why we shouldn't have done this. This is why we shouldn't have like basically said the truth." And we should have just like lived in this like awkward walking around eggshells and not really saying how we feel, which is just like, okay, is this just society? Is this like people don't really want to hear the truth? They like looked, I felt like they kind of like looked at us as like pariahs. Like, oh, now Ariel and Christy are going to be the ones that like talk about how they feel. I don't know. And I'm so terrible.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is ready to hear what you have to say. Also, people are very strange when it comes to emotions and receiving emotions in a healthy way. People are going to it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. Uncomfy.
Yeah.
Let's get uncomfy.
I know. If we said the word sex and we offended you, sorry. But I mean, again, we were even talking about sex in the context of being way too, I mean, like one of the clips that we posted before is like, why were we 14 dating 19-year-olds? Like, or why were we a huge, huge thing about shame and guilt? And the reason, like, just to bring you guys into our conversation and in our world, we feel like we're women in our 30s. I was going to say 40s. I was like, no, I'm in my 30s. We're women in our 30s that are just now realizing that we are carrying shame and guilt about things that, this is the most screwed up part. Things that were done to us, even. Maybe not even things that we did ourselves. Like we were talking about being around guys that would push us to do things.
Yeah.
Or being in like a relationship with an older person that was just, I mean,
I was in relationships with same age and they were still pushing me to do stuff.
I know.
So yeah, it's more inappropriate when an older person is taking advantage of a younger. But where was that 12-year-old getting those ideas from?
Yeah, too.
Older boys.
Older guys. And then also like, I don't, I mean,
it's brought up a lot of stuff for me as well. And I think of many situations that whether I was drinking alcohol or in social situations where there were men trying to get me to do things all the time, whether they said it, whether they were physical, whether they were sober or not, whether they were being pressured from other guys, their guy friends, to be like, oh, look, that's cool, or do this. And I could hear them or whatever it was. I remember I went to a party once and my friend, she had a much older brother. He was in his 20s. I was maybe 15. He had 4 of his friends over. He said to her, invite 4 of your friends, or 3 friends over, and we'll buy you whatever you want. We'll do whatever you want. Okay?
Samesies.
But I didn't know any of that. I just showed up because I thought we were going to have fun.
With college boys.
Mm-hmm. The guys were waiting upstairs in the rooms, and they told us, they were like trying to feed us alcohol, doing whatever. And they were like, oh, go in that room. Go in this room. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure weird stuff is like all these strange, weird memories are going to resurface for me.
So much. Yeah. So I'm doing EMDR. EMDR? What am I trying to say?
I don't know, but we got to get that right because that's important. I think it is.
EMDR therapy. Am I saying it wrong?
I'll look it up.
My therapist, she's a goat.
Yes.
EMDR, right? Did I say? I'm so tired. Anyway, so I'm doing that therapy, and it's like for
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy.
Yeah, so like maybe you've seen it in shows or whatever. They can do this. Like my therapist works with like buzzers. And goes, it's like supposed to be like the left part of your brain, the right part of it, even though I just did that wrong. Still the homeschooled life. I don't know my rights and lefts. Okay, so I'm doing that therapy and she like beeps my brain. And the stuff that has come up out of me is so traumatizing, one. But it's the same, again, going back to shame. It's like, this is the thing that keeps coming up. We had to process. I panicked at something in like, I don't know, just the other day or whatever. I had this like visceral trauma response to something. And so she like was like, I've been waiting to go over this with you for like 1.5 years. I'm like, okay, let's do it. But we finally like talked about this really traumatizing relationship that I had. And she basically got, by the end of the session, which probably went forever because I was just like, I don't know. I don't really think that happened, whatever. She got me to a place when I was like 18 or maybe like 18 years old, confronting this older guy that I was dating, saying, what did you do to me? What did you do? Saying like, we didn't have sex. What did you do to me? Because I told you I didn't want to have sex. And he kept, now we know the term gaslighting.
Oh.
I didn't know this term when I was 18 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, what did you do? You did something. Like something is wrong, right? I'm thinking like my poor baby 18-year-old self is trying to stick up for herself and say like, something is wrong. You have been pressuring me and doing all of these things to me. And now I'm finally realizing you are abusing me. Like what? And he was like, that didn't happen. You're making this up. You were drunk. You drank too much. That didn't happen. And was laughing at me and doing all this. Like, I can only like.
Wait, so this is a visualization that you
No,
had?
this really actually happened in real life. I confronted this person. And
were they sober when you confronted them?
Sober, that's the crazy thing. So I like went through a relationship where I was, a long period of my life from like 15 to probably like 21 where I was just not sober, like a lot. But I think like we just went through that like heavy drinking phase from like, I don't know, 16 to 20, I think. I drank really severely. We lost our uncle. It like set me over the deep end. A bunch of things happened in my life and I just dove. And unfortunately, when you drink, you hang around people that drink. And like you said, like those guys were like, oh yeah, come up here and I'm gonna give you this alcohol and blah blah blah. Unfortunately, I was surrounded by those guys all the time, and I know. Like sometimes I just want to like say these people's names out into camera, but I'm just gonna be calm.
There were so many of them.
There were so many.
There were so many of them.
There were so many. I remember, I mean, y'all want to get like real deep in with us. We'll just talk about like traumatizing stories. I was laid out on my bed, passed out drunk, and some rando guy at a party tried to put his hand down my pants.
Oh my goodness.
Nelson broke the door down to save me.
Oh, wow.
Okay? My friend had to break down a door to save me from this dude. I mean, I've blocked so many memories out. I have like so much crap with that where it's like, where in the world it makes you want to take like breath. I mean, I've processed so much in therapy,
No,
guys.
that is not what I was thinking. Taking a deep breath, I was thinking, why was I living in another state, not there for you, protecting you?
That's true. You should have been protecting me. I've had to process that too. You left.
I know. Well, wait.
I know.
Oh,
don't tell me. Don't cry.
No, absolutely not. No. The reason that I came back home is because when I found you in the driveway and you're like, come back home. Why did you leave me?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that was the period of time when I was going on with this guy. And it was right after Uncle Ruben died, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
I don't know.
I was like fresh out of rehab.
Gosh.
I think I was
How old were you when you went to rehab?
18. So I was like, I got in trouble. Maybe when I was like 17. And then I went to rehab. You were gone.
I was 22, 23. So, and I was living in Connecticut. So
I had to be like 20. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe. That would make sense. 19, 20.
No, maybe I was younger. No,
I think you were younger.
No, maybe I was younger when I came back for that one time. And I said, oh, have to come back to New Jersey.
I was a hot mess. Basically from 16 and a half to 21, I was a disaster.
Yeah.
Like
remember when you had hiccups so bad?
No, and I puked? What happened?
You had hiccups because of just
trauma, probably.
Probably, but you were just drinking so much and I guess maybe doing drugs. And you had hiccups for months.
Stop.
You don't remember that?
I have blacked out that period of my life. I have blacked out so bad. Not just from, again, and this is what I think. I'm like, I don't think it's just from, obviously when you do drugs and you drink really heavily, you have blackouts. But I think it's from like emotional. I just like shut that down. Because also I'm living now my life. I'm not like that at all. Like people have no idea about this. Like I don't drink. I don't do drugs. We don't even
talk about this.
No, I don't even take aspirin. I had 2 babies unmedicated because I was like, what's in the epidural? And they're like fentanyl. And I was like, nah, I'm sober.
Oh my God.
Forever. I'm sober.
You're hardcore.
I'm hardcore. I have to be hardcore though, because look, addiction and I don't even feel like I was that bad. Thank God. I think I was saved, like, from the hand of God, literally saved. I think I got arrested. And then I remember, like, you being like, I don't even know what happened, but I think I was in that horrible relationship. I got arrested. I don't even know what happened to really. I think I met somebody that, like, shout out to Gabby. I think he, like, I was dating some guy at the time, and he was like, bro, you got to get your life together. You are in a hot freaking mess. But I had to like deal with all of that. I think now I'm dealing with all of the shame from living that lifestyle. You know, even though people are like, oh, we don't judge you. What a great testimony and this and that. And now you're a great person. It's like, yeah, but I've had to deal with the shame and weightiness of not just drinking or whatever and drugs, but being with those people that like traumatized me. People that like the situations we were in, the drug dens and the like drug dealers. Like,
yeah, no. One of my girlfriends growing up, she used to only date drug dealers. And we used to go to the craziest places. She used to not even, and that's the thing, we would just get in the car
and go.
Yeah, just get in the car. Where are we going? Oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah's house. Oh, this new guy I'm dating. Full drug den.
Mm-hmm.
Drug den. Multiple levels. I remember I remember this one time. It was probably the height of her drug addiction, my girlfriend. we go to this house, abandoned house in Belleville, and it was a 4-story house.
Oh, Lord.
And we went into the second floor, and there was a woman in her bra and her underwear because the house was so hot because they were cooking drugs.
Stop.
Yes. And they had ovens, just ovens everywhere.
What's her name's boyfriend at that time?
I
Right?
don't-
He was like a serious drug dealer.
No, not that one.
Oh, okay.
She dated multiple.
I was
She
going to say,
dated
there's
multiple.
so many.
But we went in, and it was like shocking, but it was,
Why were we not scared?
well,
Is it also because sometimes I think...
we had no fear. At that age, I had no fear. No fear.
Yeah, like I was talking to a 16-year-old and she's such a good kid. And I was just like, hey, you can never take a pill from somebody, right?
No.
And she's like, yeah, I know, like fentanyl is really dangerous. And I'm like, do you know how many pills I was just handed and took as a kid?
Yeah.
We had
my gosh.
We had no concept. I mean, fentanyl wasn't a thing. So we were not scared like that.
But drugs
whatever.
were laced.
Of course. I hallucinated so many times from taking things. Kids, I feel like this should be a dare ad of like, these are all of the things that you should not do. Because again, like how we were saying, like, oh, you're dating the older guy, or you're doing this, or you party, or you like whatever. It's like that stuff screwed with us.
Yeah.
And we're like
Now processing it.
in
our late 30s. Now processing it for real?
Yeah. Like now going through like I again, like, hey guys, we said we were going to talk about addiction. We said we were going to talk about like, death and grief. And one of the first things that came up for shame about me, because I used to say, I'm not shameful. I'm not ashamed. I'm just, like more conservative. I don't want people like, I don't want to talk about things with people. And my therapist is like, yes, you are. Like, she was really gracious. She is so gracious with me. Sometimes I just feel like she needs to slap me in the face. But sometimes she does with her words. And I'm like, thank you for that. I needed help. But she brought me back to talking about like drugs, talking about the way that like we were, like what we used to do or whatever. I was carrying shame and guilt from one of our friends. Like one of my best friends passed away a few years ago. And I did not process. I was pregnant at the time, so I couldn't like really process my emotions about him dying. It was COVID. It was a mess. People like didn't understand this, the severity behind his death. I knew because I had grown up in addiction with this person. So I knew their struggles. I knew what they were going through. And I remember they called me and I didn't call them back because sometimes you get like tired from people that are just doing the same thing. Are you going to be sober when I talk to you? Are you going to be drunk? Are you whatever? And I remember being like so tired because I was pregnant and I did not call him back. And then he died. And I remember being like disassociating totally. Like I can't process some, again, another dysfunctional thing that people told me was, oh, don't cry too hard because you'll kill your baby. Because I was like very early pregnant. Don't cry too hard. Don't like over exert yourself with emotions. So then I was like carrying that guilt of like, oh my God, what if I kill my baby from crying?
Wow.
Okay. Years later, processed it in therapy and realized I feel guilty for his death because I could have saved him if I answered the phone call. Or I did a bunch of drugs with him and we drank really heavily and I encouraged his addictive behavior. And what if I never did this, or I introduced a particular drug to him that he got really bad with? And I was carrying this guilt and my therapist had to be like, oh, honey, addiction has no respecter of who is going to call that person back and who is like, you can't control the genetic disease that was in him that he couldn't, But I remember the first time I hysterically broke down in therapy was that moment. And I'm like, I am filled with shame And I shouldn't be shamed. Like,
Yeah.
I know it was really hard for us. Like, we had a lot of addicted friends.
No, I had like 1 or 2 therapy sessions as well. Obviously, I didn't wait that long because obviously I was really upset about it. But mine was I did pick up the phone call and we talked for a long time. But it was during COVID, so I was talking to him about how depressed I was
Yeah.
and how I was not doing well and trying to be honest and vulnerable. And he was the one encouraging me and lifting me up. And I was like, wait, I made that phone call conversation all about myself.
Mm.
And then he died and I was like, oh, wow, I am clueless. I'm clueless. So I carried
Dang.
the guilt from you selfish woman.
Yeah. No, I mean, I felt like that too about a lot of my friends are like, oh, you abandon us. All my party friends, like when I like cleaned my life up, I literally cleaned my life up. I was like, I don't want to be on drugs. I don't want to drink. I like started going back to church and I really like, you know, I feel like God saved me. Like,
You did.
God saved my life. I don't care if you don't believe in this or that or whatever. There was no other explanation for like supernatural. I know that's like a weird word, but like, you know, when people say like, oh, I immediately felt a particular way, it's like, I really feel like God saved my life because I should be dead. But still thinking like, oh, I'm abandoning my drug addict friends. I need to go back to them. And like sometimes that would lead me back into like drinking or this or that. And I'm like, I don't want to go back to that lifestyle. It's really hard to like pull away. But like I even felt shame about like I felt like I abandoned my druggy friends. Like, oh man, well they're not living the same lifestyle as me. And now like am I being like religious? Am I being like uppity because I don't want to drink alcohol anymore?
I remember when I was living in Pompton and we were all remember I used to live by Thatcher's and we would all walk across the street.
Yes.
I remember that, you know, it was like you and Gabby and you weren't really, you know, you were
Trying to
not
be
living
sober.
that lifestyle anymore. And one of your friends called our friend and said, oh, Christy abandoned me for the faith or her faith. Remember that?
Yep.
And I was like, what the heck is that?
Because
like, what? We're all going out. We're inviting her to go to the bar or drink, you know, have dinner, go drinking. And she's saying, oh, well, she sings now or however she associated it.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I don't know. People said the weirdest stuff to me. And I feel like I was just like, but I was so focused on being sober. And then also like, I felt insane. Like my life was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Zone. Think about like, you know, and you've had a lot of crap happen with you too of just like.
Mine happened, my real bad stuff happened later in my 20s.
Yeah.
25, I would say like 24, 25, I guess.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. 27 was like my lowest. And that's actually when I started really drinking.
Yeah.
So, well, and my marriage was falling apart, stuff like that.
That always helps.
Midlife quarter life crisis? No, I don't know.
Crisis.
But I don't know. I always stuck with I never left friends or never stopped hanging out. You know, I never had that.
Well, also, I feel like I went to rehab and the big thing, the AA and NA is like people, places, things, right? And so we would be constantly drilled. And sometimes like, I don't know, I love AA and I love NA and I hated rehab, but I loved what it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
It kept me accountable and it was just like I had to get drug tested all the time and whatever. I mean, I met horrible people there, like horrible, that after we got out, I declined really bad. But then like somehow I went back to it, but they're all about like, you got to cut out the people. And I think that like kind of stayed like AA can be a little culty. And NA can be a little culty, like whatever. I think it's amazing and it's founded
it really is.
Really incredible principles. But I do think that it was like, I have to get away from the certain people that like tempt me. And yeah, sometimes you do. Like there are people
No,
that have to
yeah.
move super far away and whatever. But I think because faith was mixed in with it, I think people were like, oh, does she think she's too good now? Or I don't know what it was. And it was like confusing as a young person to be like, but wait, so you loved me when I was a hot mess, drunk, on the floor, puking, like disaster. But then when I'm trying to get my life together, you're like, traitor. Right? I'm like, I don't know. I carry like a lot of weird, like I had another friend that like she's not doing well at all. And I do feel like I kind of had to separate myself from her. And she like went off the deep end. And I was like, I should have been there for her. I
Yeah.
could have been like, she got into an abusive relationship and all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. I felt like such guilt and shame, but I had to mask it because shame, feeling guilty about something is like, I can't explain it. I mean, maybe we should have even explained what like shame and
I think there's
guilt are.
so many ways that you can shame, but I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. Hold on for 1 second.
Brene Brown, if you don't know
Oh.
anything about shame, read.
No, it was
Read her.
where we did the now.
It says, okay, so I wrote this. I said we wanted to get down to like the nitty gritty, whatever. We were like basically writing notes and we said we wanted our first series to be around shame. And I said, shame is one of the reasons why we started this podcast.
Yes.
Because it kept coming up about like, why do we feel shame about this? This is the way, blah, 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 blah.
Here.
And then it says shame breeds silence and keeps you away from your community. Dun, dun, dun. And I feel like that. I feel like, do you know what it keeps me from? Creativity. I think like feeling ashamed or feeling like I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to open up. I need to like keep this inside. And I think it keeps me away from being like authentically me. I don't know. Do you like?
For me, it's more about solitude. What you said, keeping away from the community. It's more about isolation for me because I'm a really big introvert.
Yeah.
It keeps me away from sharing with people what's going on in my life, feeling okay to be vulnerable to other people once I'm with them. It really is, I don't know, COVID's really messed us up a lot, but when we do get together with people or we're hanging out with friends or we're in a community, whether it's a big social, a small social, what are we talking about? What's the content of our conversation?
What do you mean? Like
it's not deep. It's very surface level.
Oh yeah.
It's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you can't wait to see your friends. You want to talk about your friends with your friends. You want to catch up with them. And then it's like, I don't really think I should bring up that issue, that problem, whatever's going on in my marriage. I'm not really sure I can be truthfully vulnerable.
No, I think I remember like talking about marriage. We both had a lot of issues in our marriage. And like I said, I felt completely unprepared. You take this trauma and this trauma, smush it together and and then just try to like figure it out. And I feel like when I would try to talk about the issues in my marriage, I felt like would be like, she's complaining.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
And I'm like, no, I just need help. Like, I don't know what to do.
Well, also you have to think about where you're going. This is another thing. This is what I think I was talking about before when I said I would really love to create a group of mentors. So if you're going to someone maybe same age, less experience, if you're maybe just going to your friends and saying, hey, like this is going on in my marriage, we're having all these problems. Are they really the best people to be going to?
No.
Are they wise? Do they have experience? Have they been through it? And I think
True. Yeah.
that, when we say people are our friends or in our core group, they're not necessarily the people we need to be unloading this stuff onto. And maybe they can't handle what we're talking about. Maybe they do think we're complaining. But how do you find people? How do you find people besides a counselor, a therapist? those people are rare. Those people, like going up to an older, more experienced woman or someone who's been married
I
longer.
hate that.
That sounds like my worst nightmare sometimes.
I know, but I hate that it's like the very thing that we want, and we feel so awkward
Yes.
to, I don't know, to like ask for, I don't know, me personally, I think you're a lot more brave than me. My husband's like super brave. He talks to people about the craziest thing, and I'm like, how did you just like, he's just will just lay it right flat out in front of somebody, and I'm like internally like biting my nails, like I cannot believe you said that. And the end result of the conversation is phenomenal, but I'm so terrified to like even
Bring it up.
yeah, like he showed somebody our podcast, and I was like, don't show her, like I'm embarrassed. And he's like, you're doing a podcast. Like your face is literally out there. You're literally doing a podcast about being vulnerable. And you don't want to tell this lady that you have a podcast. Like the bizarre dichotomy that goes on inside of us. But again, we're just trying to be vulnerable to be like, yeah, we want to talk about all this stuff, but we are not even
Right. So
doing it ourselves. So
shame molds us from a young age. It causes us to be timid, to be shy. As young women, we're taught to behave and act a certain way through societal pressures or whatever. Just talking about society in general. We have to behave a certain way. We have to act a certain way. It's inappropriate if we bring things up. It's inappropriate if we dress certain ways. It's come on. It's 2025 now. How are we gonna break these societal norms down?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what were we saying? Like, so I think I like wrote in my notes somewhere when we were talking about like sexual, like trauma and feeling taken advantage of and rape and abuse and all those things. And, you know, I just watched some show where this girl, was like groomed by her teacher, and then he didn't like touch her, but he did like a bunch of inappropriate things himself and like exposed himself and all this. And then one of the first things that the police said, because she was underage when she went to the cops, one of the first things that the police said were like, well, did you send him pictures? Like, were you showing like interest? What were you wearing? I'm like, all of these questions. And I know it's supposed to be like dramatized for TV. But I'm like, no, we're literally made to feel shameful as women to be like, oh, well, you were drunk. So that's why he did that to you. Or like, you were wearing a short. I mean, I consider myself a really like, we don't dress like hoes, but
Modest.
I have modest. There you go. That's the word. But I have a lot of friends that dress however they want. And it's like, well, they're getting that type of attention because the way that they dress. And I'm like, I don't think this is right to tell our young women that it's our fault that we get slapped in the butt at a restaurant by the cook. Or it's like, I mean, we could tell you stories upon stories, but.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that a really overlying topic that came up for me was, as a young girl, I learned to be shameful of my body at a very young age, feel very uncomfortable because I had to be modest. I had to be covered, even though I didn't want to be. And then because I had to dress a certain way, you know, wear dresses and bows and be proper, take etiquette class,
Oh my gosh.
things like that.
Remember when mom bought me that How to Be a Lady etiquette book?
No.
And I was like, I'm going to burn this.
I just remember getting
Poor mom.
getting the book, Soup Should Be Seen and Not Heard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that book. Yeah, that backfired.
But it messes with your brain,
Right.
for sure.
Okay, so being told you have to be ladylike, you have to dress a certain way, ultimately caused me to rebel and be heavily influenced by the skate culture.
Yeah.
Want to be a tomboy, never wanted to
Wear a dress.
wear things and then really cover my body up.
Yes.
Where
Yeah, I did the same
wanted to wear really baggy clothes.
Jenkos. Jenko jeans and Vans.
Right, but I was heavily influenced by that like right now the Gen Z kids are wearing that, like the big cargo pants and the skate shoes. And I mean, walking around seeing these kids, I was like, oh, I swear I had those in high school.
Literally.
I swear I dressed just like these kids in high school. But then coming out of that tomboy phase and then learning to dress again for the male gaze.
Yes. As a teenager. Yeah.
Until this day, women still struggle. How do we stop dressing for the male gaze?
I'm like, I do the opposite. Remember on like Easter or whatever, we went to church and people were like, oh, you're not wearing a dress?
I wasn't there.
Just kidding. I was talking to somebody else. Loris? Was I talking to you, Loris? Oh, yeah, I was talking to Loris. She was like, which is, we talk about this all the time, being like, I hate to say we're like alternative girls, but like we're not that typical, like, I'm going to wear Air Jordans and Shein clothes or whatever it's called. Shemu? Why do I want to call it?
Shein?
Shein? No, Temu. I put them together. Shemu. This is a new brand. This is a new brand I'm coming out with. Shemu.
Sold exclusively at SeaWorld.
Yeah. No, what we were saying, we're both, curvy girls. And I said, oh, like, I don't want to wear a dress because I don't like the attention that people will be like, ooh, cuerpo, like, I'm like, no, I don't want you to look at me. So I will dress in baggy clothes just so you don't make a comment about my body, which is super annoying.
Welcome to my life. Welcome to my 30s. Wait, SNL just did Forever 31.
No.
It was amazing. You have to watch it. It was basically like all baggy clothes and like very just like Forever 31. And it was oh my god.
Oh, Forever 21. I got it.
Yes, because Forever 21 is closing. I know. R.I.P. R.I.P. all our club clothes.
Oh.
All our club clothes.
Club Bliss.
Club Bliss.
Shout out to Yvonne. Club Bliss.
Blispers. Oh my god.
Why did we do the things
to get kicked out?
We got
to get kicked out. We just did it to see how many times we could get kicked out.
How drunk we could get. And I feel like we talked about getting drunk a lot on this particular podcast,
yeah,
but I don't know what we did. We planned something, but I mean, it ends up whatever. But wait, now that we just divulged a bunch of information.
Well, I think it's important because our listeners got to know us a little bit more.
Yes, you guys got to know us. Also, we got a message from a girl that said, or a person, so I don't give your identity up, that said, like, thank you guys so much for talking about these topics. I just started therapy. I'm 29 years old and like I'm dealing with all this stuff now. And it's like, this is literally the purpose of this podcast.
Absolutely.
We're trying to say, number one, we don't have all the answers, whatever, but we just literally want to create a space where you feel comfortable enough to message us like this girl did. We want your messages. Please comment on our videos. Send us DMs. I don't know. Can you comment on YouTube or something?
Yeah, you can. Yep. Yeah, right under our
not video. A YouTube on Shorts, but whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what I'm talking about, guys.
Yeah, but no. So we want to encourage you to tell us your anonymous stories, your questions that you have. We also want to hear
a friend. You can say
yes, and we also want to know the ways that shame has shown up in your life and your experiences. Whether how you've overcome them, what's happened to your stories, we want to know.
Yeah, and we want to have people on. If you want us to even like read, if you want to write your story and you want us to read it and talk about it, that's kind of the whole. Some people are not. They don't want to. They maybe can't because of the family they came from. Maybe it's a legal situation. Maybe they're just embarrassed. Maybe they're feeling shame, but they want somebody to talk about it and. We will. We will talk about it. So if you want to like DM us a story If you want to text us, if you have one of our numbers, if you want to comment, I don't know, I think you can comment anonymously. Or just be bold. Say it right. Say it right on YouTube.
Yeah. So subscribe, like our videos,
Oh, yeah, subscribe.
share our videos. We want to keep doing a series of shame and guilt. We're going to talk about physical and sexual, how ultimately it leads to your mental health, your physical health, your sexual health. And
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but we do want to talk about that, guys. If you are interested, whether you're a girl or a guy, we want to talk about how shame and then how trauma too, like it does affect you in your later life and in your sexual relations. And we want to talk about purity culture. We want to talk about a bunch of things that maybe we didn't get to today, but I think maybe that's what our next episode will be on. So send this to somebody that needs to hear.
yes.
And send this to somebody that needs a seat at our table. Sit at our table.
Come sit with us.
Come sit with us.
We love you.
Love ya. Bye.
Love ya. Bye.